There's one skill that I've never heard anyone talk about that I think is one of the most underrated and underestimated skills, but every great developer I know has it. What is that skill? Imagination. Today, I want to give you 3 ways that imagination helps a developer be a great developer instead of just an average developer. So if you want to learn more, come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Hey, Junior Devs, Dev Mentor Dave here, helping you bridge the gap from learning to code to launching a successful career, and that may not include being a professional singer. But that probably will include being someone who can tap into the power of their imagination. What am I talking about when I say great developers use their imagination? Well, a lot of people can write code. A lot of people can learn how to build applications. They can get tickets and they can do what the tickets tell them. But not every developer has the ability or the desire to take the time and let their mind wander, let their imagination flow free. But those that do typically do a better job developing the applications and the programs and the websites that they're working on. Now, the first way that we use our imaginations as developers is we take the time to think about how the user is going to interact with the application that we're developing. We can kind of visualize in our mind what that screen's going to look like. Even before somebody gives us a design, we have a rough idea usually of what all will be included on that page based on the information that we've gotten from the client and the work that we've put in to define all the features and things. And we can think through, how is the user going to actually go from this step to this step and this step, and how do they want to be able to do that? And so we use our imagination to think through the workflows and the steps to be able to allow the user to do the thing that they want to do. Now, don't get me wrong, it is awesome when you have a designer, when you've got somebody who can go in there and create these awesome visuals and give you a walkthrough of everything that you're supposed to create. That's great. But that only really deals with the visual side of things, not necessarily all the functionality, not necessarily exactly what the user is expecting. That's just a visualization of what they want to see. What we need to do as developers is use our imagination and figure out, if I'm a user, put myself in the user's shoes and how would I want to interact with this application? Because most of the time, if we build the application the way we would want to use it, chances are the end users are probably going to want to use it the same way. Now, is that going to be perfect every time? Of course not. But if you're just worried about writing clean code and finishing tickets and doing these things that are good, that are part of your job, you're missing out on kind of the human element. You're missing out on the opportunity to build something great that people enjoy using. And really, in my opinion, as a developer, that's our goal. We want to build something that people enjoy using, that they keep coming back to, that they're glad they paid for. So our imagination helps us to understand that user workflow, that user interaction, and how they want to use what we're building. Not only does our imagination help us visualize users, but it helps us visualize data. It helps us visualize how the data is going to interact with each other. Just recently, we've been talking about that here on the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel in our live stream series, as we've been going through the Deep Pockets project. We've been talking about what data we need and how that data interacts and what pieces of information belong to those different features or those different types of data. And unfortunately, you don't necessarily start with all that information just laid out for you. Sometimes you have to use your imagination. You have to think about, okay, if I were data, if I were this object, what kind of information would be a part of that? You have to use your imagination. You have to think about things. You have to think outside the box. You have to imagine how that data looks and how that data interacts with this data. I need to know how makes and models of cars interact with my cars. I need to know what those relationships look like. And yes, of course, we need to actually document that information, especially after we've used our imagination and figured it out. But it takes imagination. And I'll be honest with you, there are some people, they just don't have that gift. They don't have the ability to sit down and really imagine. Now, does that mean that they're horrible devs? No, there are some great devs out there that do a phenomenal job writing code, but they have to be given a lot more information. And there's some really good devs out there, in my opinion, better devs who can get a little bit less information, but use their imagination and figure out the things that they need to figure out when it comes to user interaction and when it comes to data and information and how it needs to be stored, how it needs to relate to one another, and how we need to interact with it. But thirdly, and probably most importantly, we use our imagination to find problems before we write them. Now, I said that way on purpose because unfortunately, the reality is a lot of the problems we run into are problems that we wrote. They're bugs, they're issues that we created along the way. But really good devs can imagine not just the user workflow, not just the data and how it interacts with each other, but as they're writing code, they can imagine how that code's going to run. They can imagine what problems might arise when someone tries to interact with that code, when someone tries to use that code in another method. They can think ahead. They can imagine. That's really all imagination is. It's thinking ahead. It's finding the problems before they happen so that you can prevent them before they even become problems. So if you're looking to be a good or even a great developer, I want to encourage you to build your imagination. Learn to envision things before you do them. Think through them. Imagine how the user is going to use it. Imagine how the data is going to relate to one another. Imagine what problems are going to probably arise from what you're trying to do and the code that you're writing. Build your imagination. Join this world of imagination, and it will make you a better developer. Hey, if you're finding this content helpful, would you click the like button for me? It just tells YouTube, hey, people are interested in this, and it'll share it with more people that hopefully can be helped as well. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the bell icon to be notified the next time I upload another video or the next time I go live, which is typically Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central United States time. Thanks for spending time with me today, and I'll see you on the next one.